For Monday morning here in the FCT, and of course we have our table loaded with the right discussions ready for you today.
Yeah, good morning, Nigeria, and TJ. It's nice that you are back here for 1 week. They left me alone.
Did you miss me?
Seriously.
Well, we are back to the table.
It's good that you're looking delectable this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, let's go into what we have for you today. Good morning, everyone, and thank God for a beautiful Monday morning. This is FCT Brief. As Nigeria intensifies efforts to reclaim its communities from violent non-state actors, the war against terrorism, kidnapping and banditry remains at the center of national discourse. From rural farmlands to major highways, the disturbing rise in abduction and coordinated bandit attacks continue to test the nation's resolve and the capacity of its security architecture. Today, the demand for tougher punitive measures has grown louder as citizens seek stronger deterrence against those who threaten peace and stability.
In recent months, renewed conversations around scaling up sanctions have gained momentum, with stakeholders pushing for stricter laws, faster prosecution, and enhanced collaboration between security agencies. While ongoing military operations have recorded gains, many believe that more robust legal frameworks backed by effective enforcement are critical to breaking the cycle of crime. The questions remain: are the current penalties sufficient to discourage the financiers, collaborators, and perpetrators of these acts? And this morning on FCT Brief, we examine the push for stiffer sanctions and the broader implications of national security, governance, and citizen protection. Joining us to deepen the conversation is Ambassador Chibuzo Okereke, a distinguished legislative governance expert and public affairs analyst. He brings valuable insight into policy gaps, legal reforms, and the strategic steps needed to strengthen Nigeria's counterterrorism response. Also, Libros Oshoma, a legal practitioner, will be joining us via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show this morning. Now, Libros, thank you so much. Let us start with you. There's a serious move by the National Assembly to push for kidnapping to become punishable with death sentence. Now, would you say that it's a strategic move, or we're reacting emotionally to some pressures?
Ashomo, thank you once again. And I will tell you that what we are basically doing is reacting to pressure. Because talking about penalties, is it not when you arrest the kidnapper that you'll now be talking about penalty for the kidnapper? We have seen even offenses primarily that carries death penalties in Nigeria. We've seen situations where governors, restrain themselves from signing, death warrants, even after court has granted judgment. So now, coming to the issue of death sentence for penalty, for kidnappers, ordinarily, it would have been a welcome development if we at all arresting the kidnappers. We have not even shown the commitment to arrest kidnappers, terrorists, a situation where terrorists would go into a school and abduct school children, pluck them like mangoes, and then they make videos and post these videos using coordinate, using device just like you and I, and then release these schoolgirls and even make videos and tell you that these schoolgirls were not released by your country. They were not released by your military. They were not released by your security forces. Your government paid us to release them. And it's like putting it in your face that you cannot do anything. And then the next thing you do is, oh, yes, we want to, recommend death penalties for kidnappers. No, that's not the first step. The first step, like some security expert had said, is now you have declared a security emergency. Declaration of security emergency, fantastic, whatever that may be. But after declaration, what is the strategy? What's your strategy to ensuring safer, countries, safer Nigeria? What's your strategy for de-radicalizing those Islamist extremists? What is the position of the northern governors as regards out of school children, the almajiris that we're having today, so that they don't become the bandits or the terrorists that you would have tomorrow? Why is the North, for example, a safe haven for, terrorism in Nigeria? Is it the only country with Islam? Is it the only part of, Western African that that practice Islam? The answer is no. So these are the first questions we need to begin to answer, and how to de-radicalize this Islamization of politics. When we achieve that, then you can now begin to say, okay, what should be the sanctions for, or the penalties for people who perpetrate this crime? But in the absence of that, you will just be shifting the, shifting the conversation away from the inherent danger that is confronting us to legalize. For me, I just think these are legalese. We are panicking. And so that the legislatures are not seen not to be doing anything. It's okay, yes, let us recommend something. Let us recommend death penalties for kidnappers. How many have been arrested?
Well, Mr. Libros, you rightly mentioned that, this issue is far-fetched if we don't address, the root causes of the problem in the first place. But we also have an issue of poorly coordinated intelligence and management of information. How would you also advise institutions like the National Assembly to institute laws that will safeguard, our intelligence institutions and make them more effective to, tackle this problem? Because it also boils down to those root causes.
First and foremost, it is not a question of, it's not lack of laws that's our problem. It is the lack of the willpower to implement our laws. The National Assembly, for example, does not need to make law to tell the, the DSS to share information with the military intelligence unit. For example, the National Assembly does not need to make law to tell the police to create a synergy between the police mobile unit and the intelligence unit of the Nigerian army, for example. These are not issues of law. They are issues of capacity and the willpower to be able to deliver on these challenges. If we all have, first and foremost, there need to be unity of purpose. What's the unity of purpose? What are we all wanting to achieve? Let me break this down a little bit so that the average man on the street will understand. Nigeria is a multifaceted country with multifaceted ideological purpose, depending on the region you are coming from. In the Southeast, for example, while it was very quick and easy to declare IPOB, I'm not supporting IPOB. I like the fact that, yes, Nnamdi Kanu was tried and he's been shown the way to prison. While it was fast and quick to declare IPOB as a terrorist organization, why did we decide the militias, the terrorists who are ravaging communities, why are we calling them bandits? Why don't we address them as terrorists? That's first and foremost an ideological problem. When we had issues like that, you hear northern political leaders, because they share the same religion ideology with these people, they say, oh, they are our brothers and sisters. We need to include them in the budget. We need to find a way to accommodate them. We need to negotiate with them. But they forget that it is their failure of leadership. It is their failure of education that consistently has created this behemoth that is insecurity ravaging the North today. And so, you don't need a DSS, for example, to learn to share information when you have communities who tolerate and accommodate Islamic extremism. Islamic extremism is a menace. I grew up in an Islamic community where Even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught that we should seek knowledge as far as the end of the world. So somebody now coming to say knowledge is forbidden, and then an Islamic cleric, an Islamic leader, and a politician who is a Muslim will keep silent in the face of such extremism because they share the same religion ideology, and you think that someday it will not grow into becoming a big menace that it has become today. That's where we need to start from. It is not a question of just sharing, intelligence, information. First, let's also go to the area of practicing Sharia.
Liberals, I'd like us to stay on this sharing of information, and a lot of time we say the success of our war against terrorism will depend largely on technology. Now, I remember there was a time in this country when the Ministry of Communications, NCC, took us through the process of SIM linkages. And I remember that we were so much assured that time that once it is done, it will help us to effectively fight terrorism. Now, we went through a tough time making sure that our phone numbers are synced with our BVN and all that. Why is it difficult for these people, the ministry, the NCC, to come to tell us how far they have gone in sanctioning, in helping to track down terrorists? You talked earlier about how they post on social media. Is it that we don't have capacity to track, or some persons are just failing in their responsibility to use what they have to track?
Eshomomo, when you understand an ideological warfare, you will understand the menace and the problem, the big problem that we are in. As I speak to you, I listened to Daniel Bwala, one of the president's aides, defending the reason why it becomes impossible to track these bandits or terrorists, as the case may be, that they are using Starlink or that they are using the network from other countries. I laugh. It was the most stupid, sorry for me to use that word, or lamest excuses I've ever seen. A terrorist who is using a network from Benin Republic, for example, is there no ECOWAS? Or a terrorist who is using a network from Niger? Is there no information sharing between, the military in Nigeria and the military? Are there no cross-border patrol between these people? Oh, there's a phone number of somebody from so-and-so country. Please, we need to track. You say, oh, because it's using a network from another country. It's just ineffectiveness or lack of the willpower to actually do something. There was a time we came up with the idea of rehabilitating Boko Haram because some persons felt that Niger Delta militants were rehabilitated, even though their causes were different. It's an ideological thing. So if the leader shares the same ideology with the criminal, it will be difficult for you to capture that criminal because the leader will make excuses no matter what to ensure that the criminal gets away. And that's what the North has consistently failed to do. And it has now become a problem of the entire country, where the South would have to defend. Even though the South has its own problem, you have kidnapping also in the West, you have kidnapping in the Southeast, but you'll find out a situation where the South consistently is bearing the brunt of the problem of the North. But what do we need to do? Look, let me tell you, apart from regional policing, which the Northern government has endorsed, we need to look at revenue generation. We need to go back to fiscal federalism. If the man in Zamfara, for example, knows that there is no money to share from Abuja, if the man in Sokoto or the man in Borno knows that at the end of the month, he does not need to go to Abuja to collect revenue that is coming from Lagos, from the South, or from wherever, he will sit up and defend Borno, defend Zamfara with his blood, because that is where he will make his money from. But for as long as he knows that there is money coming from somewhere, that he does not have to till the soil in Zamfara, he will collaborate on that ideology. And then on the issue of SIM card registration, Eshemomo, if you commit a crime now with your phone, I can tell you the police will track you. Because it is not an ideological battle for them. You are not an ideological battle. But if your colleague or somebody, a terrorist in the north, commit the same crime with his phone, depending on the backing, depending on the sponsor, they would tell you that this information cannot be tracked, is nowhere to be found. And the man would consistently come on the phone and tell you that your government will not save you, that nothing will happen, the heavens will not fall. And so if you kill 100, there is a pool to recruit 300. You need to also attack that pool, that fresh pool of recruitment. Apart from the fact that where are the guns coming from? The sophisticated weapons that the bandits are brandishing, where are they collecting them from? We need to look at that separately before we now begin to talk about, okay, yes, what should be the sanctions? Right, so until we look at the wider root cause and the wider solutions to this, immediate, medium, and long term. Immediate solution, for example, we remember when Goodluck Jonathan innovated with Almajiri schools. Who complained? Was it you? Was it me? Was it the media? It was the northern political leaders that complained. When Lamido Sanusi complained about the number of out-of-school children, who complained? It was the northern political leaders who complained.
All right, Mr. Libras, if you allow me come in here. Sorry to cut you, but we now have a new defense minister, and during his screening at the National Assembly, he promised to return with the service chiefs to brief the lawmakers on, the real challenges and how they hope that the National Assembly will come in. Now, this is not the first time that the National Assembly is receiving security briefings from the service chiefs, always in closed session, but we hardly see, the effect of whatever discussions they might have had behind closed doors. Would you say that there is a willing political will on the part of those lawmakers, or are we just seeing, a facade and a show from them?
Which is, thank you, you are further buttressing the point I was making. There is no will from our political leaders, even those ones from the north, to actually, combat this menace. The new Minister for Defense is just one man, one out of 100. He won't be everywhere. The military, he was, Chief of Defense Staff. There's a limit to what he can achieve if the military is not properly mobilized and it's not properly encouraged. So, the political will, when there is so much wealth in the midst of poverty in a society, it shows that the political leaders are first and foremost not ready to combat a crime. You see our political leaders, the National Assembly members, how much is their take-home pay again? They also should scale down on their ostentatious lifestyle, leave out this issue of constituency project, or borehole constituency project that is a drop in the ocean, and also find a way to consistently interact with the people that sent them to Abuja. Once you do that, you will feel the pains of the people, and then you know how to step in collaboration with the executive, so that you don't have to consistently get briefings and briefings that will not take you anywhere. Look at our military. Look at all of them. Look at every day you hear that soldiers are being killed in the north. Soldiers are ambushed. Look at the way Brigadier General was killed like a chicken. I didn't hear one voice of a retired military general. But when Wike had problem with a sub-lieutenant, all the retired military generals suddenly found their voice. What does that tell you? It tells you that there's an ideological challenge here. And everybody keeps silent when we face this kind of challenge. And there is so much funds also available to play with. Okay. So these funds, it is the rank and file that bears the brunt. All right. So let me compare this, Eshemomo, quickly. Let me compare this with when a farmer was kidnapped from Niger and brought it to Nigeria. Before you heard of it, you heard that, before you even heard that the American soldiers came to Nigeria to rescue him, they had done the job and gone. So why was it that efficient for the soldiers from America to do that? Why has it, been very difficult for our soldiers to clean out these people? Right. Remember, Sambisa Forest used to be a no-go area until, the willpower. So today it is the same thing. We need to look at the challenge holistically and not just the idea of saying,
Libros. Sorry, I like that last word you gave. You said we have to look at the problem holistically. Now, let's take, for instance, the National Assembly. Mr. President recently just declared security emergency because he wants unusual approach to dealing with this menace we presently have. So from the legal perspective, when we say we have a security emergency, what does that translate to? And very soon you're going to have lawmakers going on recess when we are in a national security emergency. What should Nigerians be expecting from our lawmakers this period? Is it a time to go on recess or a time to work together with the president and ensure that this menace does not cross over to 2026? I'd like you to just help us throw light on the legal implication of security emergency.
First and foremost, Ashomomo, I've heard of state of emergency. I've heard of declaration of the state of emergency. When you say you declare the state of emergency, that means like constitutionally, certain laws are suspended and you allow, that emergency to be dealt with. That's what I know as a lawyer. But in case of security emergency, I've never heard of the word security emergency before. But I want to presume that security emergency would mean that, yes, we'll have a security challenge that is beyond immediate resolution. So it has gotten to an emergency situation that all hands must be on deck. And so when we say all hands must be on deck, are the political hands on deck? The answer is no. We're still doing the same thing and expecting the military to just go in there and rattle these people. Now, like you said, and we all know, the National Assembly is going on recess. Your house is on fire. You want to close your door and say, let me go and enjoy the Christmas holiday and then the New Year break. That's not supposed to be. There should be consistently the General House of the National Assembly receiving consistent briefing, because apart from the president who was elected globally, nationally, these people are representative of these constituencies, right, the National Assembly members.
We'll come back to you very shortly, but we have now Ambassador Chibuzo Okereke joining us live in the studio, although we just have very little time. But let's hear from you. We're still talking this issue of counter-terrorism efforts. And now some people are saying that we have a lot of ex-military men, that's retired military officials that we could engage as consultants, make use of their intelligence, their vast knowledge while they were in service. Do you think that the federal government should begin considering taking these people as, consultants to help? Would that resolve the security crisis that we find ourselves in anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those ex-military officials are a great resource base for the country. But we are not going to be taking them as consultants because most of them are already consultants due to the vacuum. They've created private security companies. They are now rendering private security services. Some of them own private contracting firms and what have you. But we recall how much we spent building their capacity, training them. And unfortunately in our system, we retire these people using the protocol of the state, but we don't find a way to reuse those heavy investments we have put in them. And at a time like this, we should get them back under a different agreement, maybe voluntary military service for 2 years, 3 years or what have you. Because if you get a new person, you will need 6 months to 1 year to train. And you can maybe get about 20% that will be as viable as some of these people who have been heavily trained in the past and ready. Actually, they were not happy, some of them, the way they were retired, because they looked up to, a flourishing career. But of course, by the Armed Forces Act and the Protocol of State, you may get retired at a point. But we need to get them now and start utilizing their services effectively.
Okay, and also the talk about scaling up kidnapping to become punishable by death. Do you think that is a strategic move or just an emotional response?
Well, I think that maybe a mix of both, because one, do we take statistics of the people who have sentenced to death for more than 10 years and no governor agreed to sign off in this country because of their religious faith and other factors? We simply, in the last how many years, have not been able to sentence anybody. And the person remain in custody. We keep using state resources to feed them. So we have to rethink the whole process and say, what is the best option for us to get this done? If we don't have, a reintegration process that can get them to become viable members of the society, then we should understand that leadership is for responsibility. If a state law says somebody should go to death sentence, then you should have the courage enough to do so. Well, that's what you signed also. So if you mix both your faith and your state responsibility, and for that purpose you refuse to sentence somebody, then you are simply telling others, what about those sentenced 10 years ago? Don't mind these people, they are joking.
All right, let's quickly come to Mr. Libras now. If this eventually becomes law, how do we risk going against any international laws by, recommending death penalty for kidnappers? Do we risk going against any international law?
No, there is. These are domestic laws. We're not risking any going against any international law. But I tell you, like I said earlier on, this is not our first problem. And I also quickly would disagree with the idea of employing retired generals as consultants. My brother, my sister in the studio, look, some of these generals have said they have put in the best they know. And so we've been having this problem for the past more than 50 years, if I can remember. So it's not as if when they were there, apart from Hejirika, it's not as if when these people were there was so much happening. And so now that they have left, the ball has dropped. No. Apart from when Hejirika was there and that, there was so much heat on terrorism, and when Lotan elders, people like Nyako and Co, shouted foul, we have really not seen any action coming from that regard. So it is not the fact that our military are not capable. It is the lack of willpower on the side of the political leaders in the north. And what is the solution? The solution is simple. Let us not romanticize this solution. The solution is we need to de-emphasize Abuja. If you de-emphasize Abuja, revenue from Abuja, let the regions create their revenue. Everybody will protect his own, and then you can get support coming from Abuja. But as long as revenue will come from Abuja and all the protection will come from Abuja, the people you are going to rescue will be the one to consistently create the problem. This old challenge started from the North want power back, and then gradually insecurity was on the rise politically. So if you cannot divorce politics from it, and then you have lawmakers, they know that's why they are going on recess. How can a man go on recess when his house is on fire?
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, Mr. Libras.
Lastly, just a few seconds. It means that collectively we are in agreement as to the solution to this problem.
Right,
that's the problem.
But we've run out of time right now. I must say thank you so much for your contributions on the program. It's a delight speaking with you this morning. Also, Ambassador Okereke Chibuzo.
Well, thank you. I'm so sorry for coming in late.
No problem.
On the National Assembly recess, they usually go on recess, but they have not announced one. So let us not crucify them yet.
It's a good one you put in that disclaimer. Thank you so much for your time with us on the program.